Greetings, all Shard Vixen here, and it is Saturday, January 21st, and the name of this vlog is Mental Health Illness Part 1. Why Part 1? Well, because you can't talk about mental illness effectively. Sorry about the bounce. You can't talk about mental health effectively in 15 minutes. You might hear sounds in the background because there seems to be a conversation going on outside the room. Okay, so mental health is an interesting subject. And why am I doing a vlog about it? Well, because mental health has flavored my life, and I'll explain flavor in a little bit, since I was really young, though I didn't know it. Also, I want to I want to tell you about some words I might use, and I need you to understand. Norm does not mean normal. A lot of people think that. Norm is, and I talked about this in my first, one of my, I think it was my second vlog in Bubbles. Okay, so norm is the given activity or traits or characteristics in a group of people. That is considered the norm. Anything outside the norm is considered deviant thought. Deviant isn't bad, it's just different. So if the norm of a group or society of people who are tattooed is to have at least 2 tattoos, and you have 0 or 1, that's a deviant behavior, especially if you refuse to get a tattoo and you're inside that group. Okay, so we understand that. Mental health tends to have its own set of norms as well as deviant ones, which are called exceptions to the rules. Exceptional rules are when you do research and you have statistics and there's a variant that just doesn't fit anywhere. That's considered the exception rule. It's what kicks your research from being 100% true. It's very rare. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen any research, but there are people who have faked it, that you get 100%. You usually get like 93, 90, 99, 98, 99.9999% of the people that were interviewed did this. Okay, there's always that 0.01% that's the exception to the rule. All right, so you need to know those when you're thinking about mental health. I mean, you don't need to, but you'll understand my vlog better if you kind of have a concept of that. All right, so in mental health, there are what I guess you could call stereotypes, but really what it is a list of traits that go for each known behavior diagnosis. So if you're diagnosed with depression, you have this whole list of traits that will fit you into being depressed. Now, is that to say, usually how the DSM goes, which is the diagnostic tool for deciding if you are mentally ill or not, because it's a book that has the list that tells you. So under depression, it might have gain appetite, lose appetite, sleep a lot, not sleep at all, gain weight, lose weight, want to have sex, not want to have sex, behaviors that are unexplained, lack of behaviors, things like that. So you're thinking, oh, well, it's like an if and or. Sometimes think of it more of a spectrum. You have this side sleep a lot and this side never sleeps, and you might fit somewhere in the middle. But that doesn't mean that you're not depressed. It just means that you have an exception to the rule. Okay, so that is just an explanation about mental health and how they do diagnosing of mental health. It changes, like everything else. It becomes like more popular to do this than that. More popular in the 60s. Homosexuality was considered a deviant behavior. Even before that, it was considered a criminal behavior, and then it is now considered a norm behavior within a group. Okay, it's not a mental health issue anymore. So when you're deviant in behavior, mental health is an issue that comes up. If you're a person that only wears black, okay, and you're 16 years old, and your parents are concerned that everyone else in the house wears pink and purple, and you're the only child who wears black, and you talk about doom and gloom and all that. Within that little family unit, you are being deviant. You are outside of the norm. And so, does that mean you are mentally ill? No. But I have found that in interviewing children whose families state, and this is the thing, families will state they're a perfect little family when they really aren't. But let's just go by, statistically wise, you have all these families who say they're perfect little families, they're really good, everything's working right, and they have a child who is unable to participate correctly in the family unit, and it causes lots of stress, and it causes stress on the child, and causes stress on the family, and so that child's deviant within their group, and that deviation is causing lots and lots of stress. So they come and they do diagnosis of all kinds of things to figure out what's going on with the child. I have found that probably about 60% of those children I interviewed suffer from a mental health. That means about 40 to 50% of them, give or take, are just children that think differently. And that's okay. So don't think just because you think differently, you're mentally ill. That has nothing to do with that. Down the road, I'll explain how thinking differently can lead to depression. Because it's hard to be among other people who don't agree with your thinking. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing up mental health issue is because I have been mentally ill probably for a very long time. I'm not sure if I was born with it or not, since I don't remember, and people that I talk to in my family have whole different viewpoints about me, so you can't really tell. I have met children, though, whose parents have said they've been different from the moment they were born, like babies who scream all through night, don't want to sleep, and there's no known reason for it. Babies who seem kind of very quiet and they just watch everything. They never smile, they're not happy. There are reasons for that, and it has nothing to do with mental health, so don't be looking at your child going, you have mental health issues. Though that's not bad if you catch it early. Okay, mental health is not curable. Well, let me back up. Mental health in some aspects is not curable, and in other aspects is curable. Mostly what mental health is maintaining. You can go through life and have one bout of mental health issues that's severe enough to hurt you, and then you go to a therapist, you learn how to control some of your issues, and you're able to modify your thinking so that things are really great. You travel down your road of life, and then some major traumatic event occurs, and it will just bring back all that back. And then some people, they're cured, because there's different stages of depression and other types of mental health. So my mental health is a long, bumpy road. I didn't grow up really good, and I used to think it was my parents' problems, because there were problems with my parents. That was my parents' fault. But it could also have been, having now learned more about mental health issues in my older ages, it could be that I was mentally ill, and then those external events caused it to be worse. Or I wasn't born mentally ill, and those external issues caused it to be worse. I seemed to perceive that I was not of the norm, that I was kind of deviant, and they pushed me further out. And that happens a lot too. If you have a child who's different and people kind of know you're different, they tend to ostracize you because they don't really understand why you're different, and they don't want that differentness affecting them. And that's a survival technique. It needs to be seen by other adults so that adults can help facilitate that child who's on the outside into the groups so that they can be more part of the norm. Not that they have to think normal, okay, that's not what I'm saying, but so that they can have the advantage of being part of a healthy group to grow. Now, if you don't have a healthy group to start with, you may not want to be a part of that. So mental health is very kind of sad, and it's kind of, it's like any other illness that you could have. You could have chronic illness for your whole life that causes problems. It causes people to look at you differently. It causes people to treat you differently. It causes people to react to you differently. It causes you to think different. It causes you to react differently. It causes you to have doubt among yourself. So if you think of mental health as a die, or in my case, I think of it as a coat. So within each diagnosis, there's a base coat, and people can fall into that base coat, or they can wear that base coat, or they can wear the exception of the rule coat, which can be a different color. It can have fringes on it. It can do, all kinds of stuff. Where I'm going with that is that I sometimes would have bouts that were different than, and so it would cause my diagnosis to fluctuate. So I would be diagnosed with bipolar, and then I wouldn't fit into that coat anymore. I would fit into a different coat, which was a borderline personality disorder. So really what it comes down to is I have a borderline personality disorder, I'm bipolar, depressive, and I have anxiety. So those are the three that seem to sit really well. And each of those, the borderline personality disorder all by itself can suffer from depression because you view the world differently. You have distorted views of how people interact with you. You have distorted views of how you remember people interacting with you, and you have distorted views of yourself. There are sometimes what will happen in the borderline personality disorder is I will have a coat. I put a coat on, and this probably confuses you guys, but the coat is my mental health, remember, the borderline personality. And I'll wear that coat, and that coat will be white. And then one day I'll go to bed, and I'll wake up, and I'll be in an orange coat. And I won't even know I had changed coats. And so the world will be looking different, and people will say, well, you remember when you said this? And I'll be like, yeah, I don't remember. And then they'll be like, oh, do you remember liking this? And there'll be slight changes in the things I like and slight things. The other thing they found with mental health issues is sensory. There's big sensory issues. Once upon a time, there are many places that do not believe in sensory issues. So you can't go to your doctor and say, I have sensory issues. They're going to laugh. They'll just laugh at you. They'll politely look at you going, that's what my doctor said about my son. Okay. And then nothing's ever done about it. I had to search out stuff for him and me, and then my daughter. And then now we have a great understanding. I went to school about it, and I have a great understanding about sensory issues. So sensory issues are where the brain reacts to sensory things, like touching. Sensory is where I can't eat certain foods. I'm better now as an adult. I couldn't eat certain foods. I couldn't wear certain clothes. I didn't like certain feelings. I didn't like, for me, sound sensory is a real issue. I don't like, it's not that I don't like loud noises. I don't mind them. I just don't like startling loud noises. If a gun, like, not a gun, but a backfire or somebody jumps out and does boo, it really fries me up. I have a really bad problem with that. Usually I will hit the person, or it will just immediately throw me down into my reptilian brain, which will give me that fight flight thing, which is a whole nother issue we can talk about for me. But so I'm going to be 52 years old, and I am still struggling with mental health issues. I was late on getting help from when I was a child. I didn't really get help till after my daughter was born. I was 28 years old, because I had major issues of dealing with other people and going to school. So I had to take medication for that. And that was the first time I took medication. So the reason you need to know about my mental health issues is because that when I'm talking about things, it is flavored from how I see the world. Okay, so that's it for this vlog, and let's see, really quick, I just got back from a long week of going down south. My body's like, everything hurts, which is kind of why I'm sitting in this chair. I didn't do the blackboard because I can't even draw. I'm going to be working really hard on a little animated short movie thing about Shard Vixen and where she comes from. My channel, it's moving along pretty well. I hope you guys are checking out some of my other stuff, and there will be at the end of this, there'll be some pictures from our trip, and they're really short because I'm not really into the whole let's see what we did last summer trip. So I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Ciao, I'm out of here. Greetings, Shard Vixen, and we are traveling. And I have Bobby Joe.
It's Bobby Joe. I'm about content for Faisal.
And we have Boo Boy. Say hi, Boo Boy.
Hi, Boo Boy. She must not be named.
No, we're not playing a game. Just say hi, Boo Boy.
Hi, Boo Boy. I'm playing.
You are playing a game back there. He's playing the Game Boy. And we are traveling down south to go to some various places. We're going to go where my son was born and where my daughter... Well, I don't think we're really going down to where my daughter was born, but we're going to go see She Who Shall Not Be Named's family. All right, we'll catch you all on the flip side. Ciao. Greetings, all Shard Vixen, and we are doing 20 miles an hour on the freeway to go home.